Hi there, welcome back to my garden. Today we're going to continue on with our garden tours, this time in the backyard. I did just post the front garden tour, so if you haven't seen that, you might want to check that out. And today we are looking at all the things in the backyard of my garden here in Zone 8B. My name is Lacey, I'm in Western Oregon, and everything that you see in these gardens I've planted myself. We built this house about 19 years ago, and it was a clear-cut spot, and so everything here is been a labor of my obsession with gardening. So I'm excited to turn you around and show you how the backyard is doing here in early June. And it's just very full and kind of bursting at the seams. All right, so I'm standing on our side patio with our carport right behind me. So this is the view right as you come into the back garden. We have this little retaining wall holding up this little bed right here. This is primarily a shade bed. You can see some conocloa in there, a little barberry. There is a clematis that's blooming right here. It's not one that twines, so I have to support it up here onto this trellis that my husband made, and I just love it. It's such a pretty color. Each year it tends to get powdery mildew, but so far so good on this year. Try to show you the blooms on that as I get over onto the other side a little bit better. Along right here, it's just things tucked in here and there. We have a PJM rhododendron that bloomed gorgeous already this season. So you either take this path to our back patio, but I'll just kind of come up these steps right here and show these spaces first. We have some lamb's ear that's about to start blooming right there, and I just love that texture. Soft silvery leaves on that. It's right across from some lady's mantle right here and lots of hardy geraniums that are just kind of seeding themselves everywhere. That's the nature of these plants and kind of these gardens. This barberry I pruned back really hard, and so this area right here is usually full of the barberry, but you can see there's a little bit of an empty spot right there that'll quickly fill back in with the barberry. The variegated weigela that's right here is just almost out of bloom, but that's okay because the foliage is really lovely to look at even when it's not covered in its pink flowers. This garden bed over here has gotten a lot more shady over the years as this really amazing Japanese maple has filled in. So some of these plants would probably be happier elsewhere, but you know, this area up here, the beds just kind of do what they want. I don't spend too much time up in this space, but look at this hosta. Isn't it beautiful? I just absolutely love this one, and it's in a container, so it probably doesn't get bothered as much by, you know, critters like slugs and things like that, but it is happy, enjoying its life right there. There's a beautyberry right here, and this is a variegated honeysuckle, just like the one that we saw, two of them that we saw up in the front yard. This gets absolutely no care from me, and it's just creeping along this fence, looking really pretty. Okay, so turning around and coming back this way, come down this little path a little ways just so you can kind of see what's underneath this Japanese maple. We have another hosta, and there's a little rhododendron that didn't bloom this year. I just planted it in last year, so maybe next year we'll see a little bit more action from that. Just some Johnny jump ups that are kind of spreading around, and this sedum. Just kind of lots of different things planted in here. But we're going to come back down these steps and go along this back path to the patio first. Okay, so now we're on this path. This is getting a little bit overgrown. You can see I should probably cut these back a little bit, these bleeding hearts, just so they don't get trampled. But we have a tricolored beech right here. It's in a container. It gets a little bit of morning sun, but not too much. Otherwise, it would probably scorch in our sun. This is a hydrangea that's really too big for its spot. I cut it back really hard every year, but it's so happy here that I haven't had the heart to move it. All along this path, we have the lady's mantle and columbine and hardy geraniums that have all seeded themselves along this space. Kind of, again, creeping out onto the path. I need to cut those back. There's lots of lamium under there that's doing really well. This is primarily a shade bed in this spot. I'm going to step back so you can see it a little better. But yeah, it's a shade bed, so there's ferns and hostas. It's a dogwood in that container right there. that just is on the back side of our house here. And I'll turn around this way and you can see this is the front of the bed that we were just looking at the back side of. Caryopteris and the huge spirea. There's a peony that is just about to start blooming. It's just amazing to me. I see in lots of other people's gardens that their peonies are just about out of bloom and mine hasn't yet even opened. So we're at a little bit higher elevation here, so some of our stuff is a bit more delayed than it would be in other areas that are also 8B. Even here in Western Oregon, we're a little bit delayed. Another little bit of an overgrown space here with another spirea and nepeta, hardy geranium, a barberry back there. A fir tree that seated itself here. We've just kind of been shearing it and enjoying it at Christmas time. I put lights on it this year and it was beautiful, but it's quickly outgrowing its space, and so we'll have to be taking that out pretty soon. Maybe we can find some place that we can take it out in the winter, someplace that wants a really nice big Christmas tree. They can have it. But anyways, behind here is a double file viburnum that's just about out of bloom, and it was beautiful. It'll turn a gorgeous color in the fall, but just the structure even during the summertime is really lovely. This one also came from my parents' garden, from the house that I grew up in, so another special plant to me. Not too many of my plants in my gardens have sentimental value, but those few that I got from my parents and from my grandma Mary that I talked about in our last video definitely do. So you can see these boxes on the back patio here. Planted these up recently with some supertunias. We have the plum veined and the mini vista white and Bordeaux. And the Bordeaux is open now, which is exciting. And you can see why they call this a mini vista. The Bordeaux is not a vista, but the size of the blooms are very similar to a vista. And the plum vein here is a mini vista because you can see that the blooms are quite a bit smaller. It has a smaller growth habit as well, but I think it's primarily because the blooms are actually smaller than the vista blooms. Okay, so coming back here, we'll back up a little bit. This is a Seven Suns flower tree. Generally a shrub, but I got this one in the form of a tree when I purchased it. So I've just continued, obviously, with keeping that form, and this will bloom later on in the summer beautifully, and it smells really good. It's a really fun tree, and it's nice and small, so it's great for the backyard. Okay, so here is what we call the walkthrough garden. My son actually kind of named it that. It was his idea what to create in this space years ago, probably 9 years ago we started this space. It was just a big triangular area of bark dust, and I wanted to put gardens in but wasn't really sure what to do with it, and he just suggested, how about just some small walkthrough gardens? And so that's what we did. We did have this dry creek bed in already. This was, my husband created this to kind of help stop water that would, rush down, well, not rush, but, make its way down through the incline there and kind of collect here, I don't know, to protect it from getting over to our house. It never fills with water, but there's a French drain in the bottom of it. And anyway, now it just looks cool. And I like it as a garden element in the backyard here. So this bed right here, there's a stellar magnolia right there in that pot that bloomed early spring. Gorgeous, gorgeous big white flowers. Lots of foxglove. You can see just a lot of the repeating elements throughout these beds, as you saw in the front. Though back here, I think it is a lot more calming. I don't know if it's because of the rock wall that kind of makes it feel a little bit more contained, a little bit more quaint. But the color palette back here too is a little bit less vivid, I think, than the front. And I appreciate that because I can look out here from the back windows of our house, and I find it very calming to look at. So we have just some mixtures of some different spirea back here, some different sedum, lots of wild strawberry that's just kind of going where it wants to. I try my best to keep it out of the beds, but sometimes it makes its way up in there as well. There's a butterfly bush in there and the bird bath. Let's get up here and look at this tree because I can see lots of the little flower buds, but I saw one that's open there. And these are just about to start opening. This is a Styrax japonica, and just a small tree. And I got it, it was kind of damaged when I got it, so it was a good price. You can see that the top had broken out of it. And I've really enjoyed it here. I think it's a really sweet tree, and the blooms will just cover it. They're little white bell-shaped flowers, and they're really sweet. So this is the back side of this bed. Different perennials in here, lots of the repeated shrubbery, because I like to know that what I plant will work for me. I'm getting a little bit more adventurous now with what I'm planting, but here in these back beds that have been here for a little while, you can see there's a lot of repeat elements. This is what I mean by this being a walk-through garden. You can see that there's a little bit of a little rock wall, and you just kind of can meander through and look at the beds from the different sides. So this one, furthest back, really had to consider deer-resistant plants here. So I have some more foxglove that seeded itself. Here's a beautiful platinum blonde lavender. It'll be blooming purple pretty soon, but again, this one I grow a lot more so for the foliage. I think it's just really pretty. We have an El Nino Catalpa that's I planted in last year that I was excited to see leafed out. It didn't bloom last year, but we'll see if it will this year. Another Caryopteris, some hyssop in there. Not too much blooming in this bed yet, but it's coming along. This crabapple is super spindly. Really probably need to try to figure out pruning that guy to get it a little bit more compact looking. There's sedum around this guy also on the bottom. I've been trying to figure out what to just plant at the bottom of this. I've tried Russian sage, and I just ended up transplanting up all this sedum here that I found in other areas of the garden, just to create a little bit of a ring around this tree. Okay, I'm just gonna come up these steps right here so I can give you a view of the backyard from up here. There's Bella. Hope it's translating well enough on the video of what I'm looking at. So my idea was to have 2 crab apples that would flank this pathway. They're both quite spindly. I've thought several times about taking both of them out and starting over with something that that's a little bit more compact, I guess, but I have yet to do that. This whole area, this used to be just a regular old berm, and I've put in these rocks over the last, I guess it was probably 5 years ago that I put all these boulders in, just to give it a little bit more interest, give myself a little bit of planting area. There's a lot of weeds, unfortunately, coming up through the ground covers and stuff, but that's okay. I should spend some time up here cleaning it out a little bit. But when I look this way, it looks a lot better, so we'll focus on this instead of the weeds. It's a couple containers with some evergreens in them. This is actually a Leyland cypress. It's going to probably stay pretty small considering it's in a container. And then also this lemon cypress. I don't know how long it'll last in that container, but I think it looks really pretty right there. So this is just one of my most favorite spots right now. This combination of flowers and foliage and colors, the textures, oh, I just absolutely love it. There's a purple sage, and then this is the Biakova hardy geranium. A little bit of a different habit on this than you see on a lot of other varieties, where this has the low down foliage and then the flowers lift up and hover kind of above the foliage. I just love that. And then another one of the variegated, yellowy variegated lavender. I just think that combination is so pretty. With the Nepeta, the barberry, and the spireas. I just think this spot is super sweet. Okay, so I was just over there, but I backed up this direction so you could see the back of this garden bed here. We have some Glow Girl spirea that have been blooming for a while now. They just have this sweet white blooms on those nice big bright leaves. Looking really pretty on the back side of this garden. We have a climbing rose that's just about to start blooming. So many spit bugs on these plants, and that's kind of unfortunate. They're a little bit ugly, but you can see the color on that rose is really, really pretty. I just love the textures again, and the cat just jumped out of the window of the garden shed over there. The dogs took after him. Anyways, I just love the textures and the colors in these beds. The lavender there, the boxwood that I'm training into, a cone, and then over here on this side, we can look through this area. This is another way that you can walk up into the garden underneath this arbor. As we come through here, you can see there's some veronica and another yellow spirea. This is a sweet variety of salvia that I planted in last year. Again, it has the different colored calyx that holds on the white flower, and I just think that looks so pretty. I love the daintiness of that. There's one right there, and then one right there as well. And then on the other side of the arbor, we're coming back up here to some more of the same hardy geranium. And then this is another variety. This, I believe, is the Carmina. You can see it's a little bit of a darker pink, a little bit almost bluish, really cool pink. And we have the California lilac that's still in bloom. I'm a little nervous about that guy because I think it could get pretty big, but time will tell with that. And pretty much the only other thing blooming in this bed right now, because the lilac is just coming out of bloom, is this blue kazoo spirea. And I just love looking out here and seeing this white in this bed. I don't know, I really love white blooms. Very refreshing looking, I think. We do have some iris over here that I forget about every year, I think, until it is in bloom and I see it and I'm like, oh yeah, I have a couple iris up there. So those are sweet. Some ground covers in here. The boxwood, the little clippings still have not browned out, unfortunately, but that's okay. Okay, we'll come down here. We have a Vitex in a container that I just have not known where to put actually in the garden. So it's in the container indefinitely as far as I know. So this is the other end of the dry creek bed, and I really love this view too. Up to the fir trees. I just think that's so pretty. This is one Spanish lavender that I planted. The other ones down the way that you can see, those ones just came from seed from another plant. But this one I really enjoy because the little frillies on the top are a little bit lighter in color than the main flower part. And I think that's, again, it's similar to that salvia we were just looking at. I like when plants have that little bit of a depth of color in them. All right, I just came back up onto the back lawn and we'll come at the front of this bed from this direction. At the end, we have a burning bush, and this is a bed that will get a little bit of attention here pretty soon. I have some things to change up in here, but it is looking pretty with the nepeta in the front. We have some betony that's coming on. This kind of has some repeated elements in it with the boxwood and some barberries and some sedum right here in the front. This I thought was really interesting. This is a lavender that it was coming out all the way down here, taking up this whole space. And I saw a little bit of growth coming off of the base of the plant. And so I've always heard, don't cut back into the woody part of lavender or else you'll kill it. Well, look at how dense this is. It's coming back beautifully. And I love this one. It's a very, very rich, dark purple. And so I'm really happy to see that one survived its cutback. So sometimes you just got to try that. I had nothing really to lose by doing it because it was just outgrowing its space and was looking pretty leggy. So I thought might as well do it. This is a lemon cypress that it died out on the top and I cut it back off the top, and now it's just kind of getting to be a little bit of an oval shape, and I need to find a spot to put that guy so that it can have a better chance of actually surviving. Now that I see that it survived its prune job, I would like to actually put that into the garden someplace. Just coming along the front of this bed. Nepeta is beautiful in bloom. Spireas are just about to start popping. I love this one with the different colors on its leaves. I just think that one is really, really pretty. Painted Lady is that variety. I don't think that they even offer it anymore, and I'm not really sure why, because it's gorgeous. I just think this is a really pretty view of this container here. You can really see the fullness of the 3 annuals that we used underneath the boxwood. The Bordeaux is so beautiful. I love it paired with the plum veined. I'm very happy with that combination. All right, so now we're back here on the back patio. You saw me recently pruning these boxwood. This bed needs a little bit of cleanup. The dogwood just came out of bloom, and so I did limb that one up just a little bit. It was getting kind of too much coverage on the perennials that are underneath it. I need to come in and deadhead the Brunnera there. All the little frilly flowers need to come off so that you can just really see the foliage that's underneath there. There's some hosta back there. Lots of stuff going on in this garden. We planted this beautiful summer crush hydrangea in last year, and it's ready to really do its thing, which will be fun to see that. Again, just some more of the really shade-loving plants. These are all plants that enjoy the shade. I should probably prune on that guy back there too. That's a banana appeal anise shrub. I could prune on that guy and take off some of the winter damage, and it would push new leaves and be beautiful. But I already see new leaves emerging, so I think I'll just probably let it do its thing for this year. The pink mint clematis climbing up there, and then the big Montana clematis. It's out of bloom now, just really covering up this space. I'm going to have to come in and kind of selectively prune it. I was thinking of pruning it all the way out of everything, but I don't think it's a damaging variety of clematis. I don't know if you can even see the distinction of the clematis between the other evergreen shrubs that it's climbing through. It's climbing through there's a privet back there, and then there's also a sweet shrub right here. And it's kind of making its way through both and creating kind of a big mat of green up there. But anyway, I've looked into it a little bit, and evidently it's not too damaging of a vine. So I don't know. I still need to decide what to do on that, but it's kind of fun just to see its habit, how it's climbing kind of just through everything. So anyway, here's the view back at the beds we were just looking at. We did these hosta in here recently, and I'm enjoying the look of them being in these containers. I think that that's fun. I think they look nice there. What I deal with. What I deal with in my gardens. So anyways, over on this side, here we do have a spirea that's absolutely in its full glory. This is the double play red, I think, is what this variety is, and look how vibrant that is. It kind of matches the red of the rose that I have in the front that's very eye-catching. Kind of out of character for my gardens, but you know, here and there those can be really effective. There's a little princess, I think is what it's called, Spanish lavender in the front, blooming beautifully. I love the look of lavender lining a path. I just think that looks really, really pretty. Backed by the carex that we planted in. This is the Feather Falls carex. It's just doing just fine in the containers we put them into. Haven't skipped a beat, and I love how they're filling in this space with that texture against the sedum. And then there's a butterfly bush right back there. I cut that guy back pretty hard this year, so it's kind of short, but it'll fill in that space, especially once it starts blooming. It'll fill it in really well. Here's a look back at that garden, and it is underneath an ornamental plum. It is the very first thing that blooms, I think, out here in this garden in very, very early spring, and it's always a welcome sight. So sweet look back at the patio of these garden beds. This spirea is also in bloom. This one came here by seed. I don't know what variety it is. I think it's probably the same variety that's over there filling in the back garden on that side, but it looks really pretty, and I've just kind of let it be here and do its thing. some heuchera tucked in there underneath that euonymus, the variegated euonymus. Has some loose strife that's starting to come into bloom, yellow loose strife around a Sun King Aurelia that's planted in there, actually in a container. You can't see it at all, but it's in a pot down there. There's another Sun King Aurelia back there. I transplanted out some peonies from this spot last year and put the Sun King Aurelias there, and I'm so happy I did, because my gosh, they are doing so well and such a beautiful bright pop of color. They love the shade. They're just a perennial, but they grow up like a shrub. So if you have a shady spot where you want some bright color, Sun King Aurelia is definitely one to go for. Those hostas there I also planted out last year. They were in a container for years, and I took them out and divided them. I did have one right here that I ended up moving to right here because the dogs love to lay under here. You can see it's a nice shaded spot. So I just kept that spot open. I moved the hosta for them over here so that they could get in there without damaging it. This is kind of just a little secret garden path back here. I love that element. It just kind of leads to the back of the garden, but I think that stuff like that is really fun to have in the garden. All right, we'll just look down here on this path really quick. This area we planted last year also with just lots of plants that we transplanted out of a front bed. This is the Haconocloa that we took out. We put in this little rock wall to raise up this garden bed a little bit better. There's Brunnera that I transplanted out from the front bed. The lemony lace elderberry is doing well in that container there. The huge hosta that's coming out of that cedar planter with some hellebores that are underneath it. I love that. I love that combination. I can look out from my bedroom window there and see that, and I just think it's so beautiful. So everything took that we transplanted out here. There's a couple Haconocloas that are kind of spindly, but pretty much everything took. So it was a great, successful transplant, and this bed is more beautiful than it ever has been. So that's nice. It's hard to kind of find stuff sometimes that will bloom so well, or that not even necessarily will bloom, but that will survive so well under such a dense canopy of shade as this Japanese maple does. This is another one that we got as a seedling from my parents' garden that I grew up in, and it's just one of the really sentimental ones for me. I love this tree. We've been limbing it up, kind of really trying to take good care of it, carefully selecting which branches to keep and which to take out to best complement the form of it, and to give it a best chance at life. So love that, but it has been difficult to plant underneath it because it's quite a bit of a slope, and all of these additions we put in last year are doing pretty well. All right, we're going to come back up here, and we'll just look this way. This is my garden shed. Happy little space that holds all my gardening things. Sometimes I have plants in there, but it gets kind of hot in there this time of the year, so I don't really have too many in there right now. I just have a collection of pots out here in the front. Funny thing about this wire vine, I was looking over at my compost area. I was dumping some stuff yesterday, and I must have taken it out of some container thinking it was dead, and it's totally pushed leaves. So I resurrected it from the compost pile, and got to figure out what I'm going to do with that. But anyway, coming this way, there's one of my Percy Wiseman rhododendrons that I deadheaded thanks to the advice from one of you guys. I didn't wait until I could just pluck them off like I typically do. I actually came in with my snips and cut them off, and you can see it's putting out all sorts of new growth. So those were so beautiful, and they are still beautiful when they're just the dark green foliage. So on this back side of my garden shed, I had a clematis growing up there that's done with its bloom. Another path to get through the garden beds. The sun's just coming up and peeking through, so this area is going to get a little bit tricky to look at, I think, but you can see the bright chartreuse ajuga that's growing through here. This again is a spot, just because it's on kind of close to the open area of the trees, that I wanted to make sure everything in here was pretty deer resistant. So there's some yarrow coming up in here. The heuchera, they don't really seem to bother too much. There's some abelia. So Weigela here on the end. This is just another little dry creek bed that Bella's walking through. This actually does get water coming through it because it comes off of our our gutter in the back, and it sees a lot of water flowing through it. So, oh, sorry, the light is going to make this a little bit tricky to see, but anyway, the big beautiful star of this garden right now is the Baptisia. So pretty. I hope that you can see that. The bees love it. It's lovely purple color. Love the texture of the leaves of this guy as well. Another repeat of the Concord barberries and some annuals that we all planted in together. Not in bloom yet, but I remember this from last year when I planted this fan flower, that it took a minute for it to get settled in and to really start blooming. But that should be covered in sweet white flowers quickly, I think. Once the heat comes, as long as I can keep them watered, they'll be covered in beautiful white flowers. Some really pretty full Spanish lavender right here. I think Toby's looking for a lizard. Often does that in the rocks right there. But anyway, the Spanish lavender is super pretty. Love that really dark bloom on that one. We've planted some Dusty Miller in here, transplanted it from another spot. So hopefully that'll just really fill in and be a nice kind of ground cover underneath the lilac. And then a beautiful spirea that's just starting to bloom. And this was another one I didn't cut back. I think I should just, at the end of the season, probably I will take that back all the way down into the woody base there, so that will be able to push out all new growth next year and be a lot more dense down there on the bottom. Okay, we'll just walk up this path and onto the back lawn. And I think this is where we'll end the backyard tour. I think we got a chance to look at pretty much everything that's back here. I kind of rushed through these. I could, if you were here with me, we could walk through and we could talk about every single plant. I'd love to do that, but got to keep these a little bit on the shorter side. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing what my garden is doing right now in early June in the backyard here. And again, if you didn't check out the front garden tour, I hope you will do that as well. And if you have any questions about what you've seen in my gardens, please make sure you ask in the comment section. I'm happy to answer questions and chat with you about what you may be wondering about my spaces. And yeah, there's lots of work to do yet, but gosh, I'm really enjoying seeing what the garden is doing this year. It's just been such a beautiful spring. It's been very mild, lots of days of rain, but then days of sun back and forth. It's quite chilly right now. My hands are really cold, but by the afternoon, it's going to be glorious out here, and we're going to be definitely getting out here and doing some more planting. So anyways, thanks for walking around with my gardens with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.